Oh, there we go. Live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Alpha to Omega Conversations for a New Earth. We had to switch up a few of our technical arrangements this evening, and it's an honor to be here with any and all of you who are able to join. How are you feeling tonight, Alyssa?
Good. I'm sad that I can't see your face that well, but I'm glad that we're here. We made it happen.
Yes, all is as it is, when it is, why it is, and how it is.
Is.
Yes. So it's a special day today, June 10th. Tonight's a new full moon, a new full moon. It's always been funny to me that the new moon doesn't get to be full. The new moon is the dark one, but the full moon is the bright one, and yet it is. So full moon tonight. In ancient days, they called it the strawberry moon because going into early summer is when the fruits would begin to bear, and you could go out and pick strawberries. Kind of ties in with tonight's conversation, which is continuing on the Treasure in the Trauma series that we're calling it, where we're going deep into our roots. Just like those strawberries would bear fruit going into summertime, that coincides with our conversation tonight, going deep into the roots of our identity and who we are and what may be locked in there that's ready to unearth itself. So how does that feel with what you're feeling going into tonight?
Yes, I'm excited. I'm very excited. You know, me and you went through a process of activating our chakras when we first met and understanding them. And that was very early on in it. And then we've done it for our children. It's really fun to be able to then, invite anybody else that wants to have a conversation about what does root mean to you and how have you learned to release the trauma that is there within our root. And it's a very interesting conversation. I'm excited to dive right in.
Yeah, excited to be there with you too. Yes, good evening, Angie. So glad to have you with us. And just a quick overview of what we're doing here and expectations and protocol. We are here as explorers. Alyssa mentioned that when we first met, we went through a chakra cleansing series together. It was like a podcast series. Very first thing we did. Hey, nice to meet you. Hey, how are you? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? And that's sort of been our goal the last year, is to bring all that back online. We kind of activated that explorer energy in each other, and that is our goal and our wish for this show. Conversations for a New Earth is about embodying all that you were ever wished for, hoped for, and dreamt about in the adult form of yourself. So many things that we sort of lose along the way. So tonight, any questions you have, any comments, all of it is welcome. So please go ahead and post anything that comes to mind, and we'll be happy to engage and angle the conversation that direction, and looking forward to what may come out. So we come into this with questions. I'll ask Alyssa, and I really don't know where it's going to go, but it typically goes to a very real and vulnerable place, and that's what's the most exciting part. So we'll just dive right in. We ended our last conversation, which we called Treasure in the Trauma, on a really, really personal and spiritual note about caring for each other and about the true nature of who we are. So when we talk about root and the treasure that may be in any trauma associated with that part of ourself, what part of ourself are we talking about specifically?
Well, obviously, root is about the tailbone. It's that primal aspect of us that either is releasing or taking back in. And energetically, a lot of times we think of it like tailbone and anything associated down there. It's like, oh, it's all about the release, which is a very important aspect. There is also a bringing back in. And it's that moment where we then dive back into the earth, to mother, to the love of the universe that always knows us and is holding space to allow us this experience of separateness. And that's where it gets really exciting. So when you think about roots, it's all about like, what is the point of the roots, right? And it is about grounding yourself, but it's also about receiving. And that's how you kind of know, like, the whole point of why they're calling it root. It's not just a releasing place. It's a place where you feel connected both to mother, to earth, to be able to receive, but also what do roots do, especially when it's like trees and a forest. Like we've already learned, especially with mushrooms, the roots are all interconnected, and there's actually consciousness that is flowing in and out of all of those things. So it's twofold. It's our ability to connect deeply to the inner world and receive right from the source, the energy from the earth, from mother, from the part of us that is there, the mother that is there holding, allowing us to have this experience, that knows us so well, and we're like the children of her. And we can choose to be just like severed and not allow something, like basically blocked from receiving and letting go from that source that truly loves us, or we can clear it. It's like one of the most important chakras to learn about clearing, because it's truly where we will receive all of our energy that then can flush out the rest of our chakras. So root is so special, and I'm wearing my red. I'm finally going to rewear my Valentine's outfit. I was like, I don't have anything red, so we're definitely going different tonight, but it's one of my favorite reds.
Yeah, it looks great. Very high vibration memories from Valentine's Day and special experiences. So yeah, red earth, red dirt. Is that kind of where the red and that ability to connect? I think that's a really important aspect of this that I haven't really thought too much about. Is there some common aspect of this root idea? You mentioned mushrooms, you mentioned trees. We do have understanding that they're communicating through these roots, through this network. Is there some common feeling or ability between us as humans with specifically relating to our root?
Well, the most important is our belonging. So the very first, and obviously anybody that knows about chakras, the root is like that very initial life. So when you first come into this world, your root chakra is the foundation, and that's kind of what you're building on. So when you're going back, if you're going to try to clear for a root, it's all about that 0 to 7. It's really those initial parts, and it's the parts where we either have been taught how to connect back to the love, the source that completely sees, and there is an unconditional way of seeing us, loving us, and offering whatever it is we need or whatever release we need, and tethering back to love. So that's where that initial tether to love and receiving and offering comes from. And then we then can have this other experience where we can have our own internal experience, like in our heart, of what it was like to experience love or to experience a lack of love, which is all just our disconnect from our root. We're experiencing the lack of love in our heart, and this experience is because we're not tethered in our root to receive all the love, because there's a lie that's wedged somewhere in there that's blocking us to connect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it completely does. And I think it goes along really well with great comment from Angie that I'd love to see how that may relate to what you're saying, that she's noticed when the root chakra is blocked, it does distort the rest of the chakras. Is that, it's an interesting function of something called a root, but it feels like it goes along with a lot of like ancient parables. Like, for example, when Jesus talked about the seeds in the parable of the sower, like if they couldn't take root, they would just be swept away or consumed by the fire or whatever it may be. So is that kind of the idea, that without being rooted, you really can't grow a healthy self on top of that?
I mean, yes, absolutely. We can find our way the best we can, but we're doing it with limited energy. We're doing it with limited potential. We're doing it with what could we become if we don't receive anything? So there's a very short lifespan that we're capable of because we're not tethered to the source of all things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that block is going to create, yes, a ripple effect in everything going up. So it's the most important one to unblock. And then as you work up, which is why we're going to start there, moving up.
Yeah, that's so powerful. We look at, medicine and healing and the arts that we go through to find healing for ourselves. And it's all about like finding the cause. And it's interesting, root and cause are kind of connected in that way. So is it safe to say that the root, whatever you're going through, going back to that fundamental belonging is a safe place to start?
Well, yeah, it's absolutely a safe place to start. And it's the most important because it's where you connect back to love. Your heart is going to be the place where it's going to literally remind you and go back to the core, which then connects you back to love, in your body, and you're going to have all these emotions that are trying to bring you back in to remember what you lost, so that you then go back in. But your core is meant to pull up from the earth into you, this foundation of I am held, I am loved, I am important, and I can be exactly as I am because I'm worthy of that. And whatever lies that say otherwise is what will block your root from believing that you can be just you. It's just I am. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's why you're created. It was more than enough for you to be yourself. The very specific self that you are was created because it was more than what yourself had before it was you. Your soul was created in order to create more goodness in existence. So the fact that you're being held and you're experiencing the separation, it is proof that you are worthy to be alive. Because if we do believe that like there is a source that we are all part of, and I know not everybody believes this, but go with me for a little bit. Like we are all God, right? But we've chosen to create versions of ourselves that would be able to experience life in a different way and to be able to relate to other versions of ourselves that we've created in order to experience the fullness of relationships, family, love, hope, wonder. All these things were all because we limited our perception and we created limitations on the gifts that we can specifically have, the talents that we're blessed with, so that we can hold hand in hand with our family, our, all others, to be able to co-create together. And like other people have skills that you don't have, so that there's this attraction of holding to each other. But then ultimately, whatever it is that you are meant to do and create, your passion, your life plan, it is all meant to be fed by Mother, by the source that creates you, that holds you alive to experience life, on and on. We limit ourselves by believing that we don't belong to that love. That's the main core block. I don't belong, and I got to be more than I am, because the am that I am is not good enough. And suddenly we give all of our energy, and where we would normally go inward and receive, oh, I got to become this or that. And our roots, which should go down to Mother and inward, go clinging to other people. Can I be good enough? How about now? And they feed off of the energy that you're meant to be being offered and given to have a full, abundant life and energy source. So yeah, very important.
Yeah, it feels like that initial point of separation is, oh, we have Eve with us. Eve, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining.
As you guys hop on, please tell us who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, and any questions that you have tonight. We've talked earlier this evening that we've got a full moon cycle that's happening through the night this evening. There's so much abundance coming around us. There's warmth with summertime. There's excitement with all of us having whatever plans and experiences that may bring. So any questions, anything on your mind or heart, anything related to what we're talking about, please put it in the comments and we'll be happy to involve it in the conversation. But talking about our fundamental experience as humans, going back to that initial first spark of life that we are, Alyssa was giving us a really powerful kind of rethinking of what that feels like, where there's this moment that we're in our mother and then all of a sudden we're out of our mother. And then how we interpret that has such a powerful sway on really the rest of our life. So I would love it if you could slow it down just a little bit more even. That moment of separation, what does it mean, and what do we sometimes interpret it to mean?
Yeah, let's go back to just the very human experience, because I like what we're doing there, because there's like spiritual, and then there's the very physical. We can all agree as far as humans. So I want to go there for a second. So yes, you're inside your mother, and when you're in your mother, everything is met, right? Like the temperature is right. You have a consistent heartbeat. There's a sound that's just always there for you, and everything you need is coming in, and you were completely free. You were completely taken care of, and anything that you're done with, you push right out and she takes care of it. Like that's what our first fundamental experience as humans actually is. And the moment that we're then pushed out of a birth is like there's all this pain, and then there's cold, and then there's now you got to take care of me. like the very human self, not the body that has all the already consciousness and love ingrained into it. It is the masculine side that can make choices that don't necessarily align and that are trying to make, there's a different experience that we finally go through. And mothers and fathers, we're all making the best choices we can to be the best parents, but we make a lot of mistakes. And in those mistakes, a child's trying to make sense of what that means.
Yeah,
right?
Picking up on everything, right? Just absorbing it all through that antenna-like experience.
And at that point, it doesn't have the capacity to say, why are you doing that? Why did you leave me here? I'm screaming, where were you? Like what? Trying to make sense of it. So automatically, because we have the capacity as humans, as little babies, to try to make sense of things before we could even ask, we automatically, sometimes, not all the time, decide one way or the other, right? But the biggest harm actually isn't in those trying to make sense why, especially the parts of us that are callous, that are a little bit unloving, because we think that that's got to be strong. You could tough it out, or I'm just so overwhelmed I can't even connect to you. Just as parents, there's lots of things we're going through. That child is trying to make sense of that. Mm-hmm. And the moment that we then project our reasons like that onto them, likely they're like, okay, they weren't making it mean something about them. But then there's the point where our insecurities are whatever we've been taught that isn't truly in the vibration of love. We haven't ascended to that understanding, and it's how we were treated, and we think that's what we need to do to our children. That then gets placed on them by our explanation of why we do what we do and how they need to be different than that, what they are, and how they express themselves and how they live in the world, and the expectations that are placed on them. And when you're older, you're going to have to learn, and to be a boy, you have to be this, and to be a girl, you have to be this. And there's so much placed on them that they actually believe you then. They may have assumed good things as a child and just let it go. But then there comes this point where you're like, holy crap, really? I had no idea. And that's the trauma. A lot of times the trauma is in the explanations of the actions or the inexplanations, but the harm is done by the lack of love in the experience altogether. But all those things go back to what do I belong to? Yeah, I like sweet.
You're onto something. What is it?
So when we are connected and we are told, let's say we step out of what we've done as humans and we redo it in the new earth. And from the beginning, that child, first of all, is taken care of, not just by you, but by a community. I'm tired. Other people oh, babies, I love babies. And we're all moving together. So there's a lot more capacity to care and to take a break as a mom, which is very important, because the baby needs a lot, but so does mom, a lot more capacity to do that. But also there is a awareness that child deserves constant attention at the beginning. It's not a cry it out method. It's not we've all been told all these different things in order for your child to be healthy. I mean, 20 or maybe 40 years ago, it was, don't touch your children, don't hug them, don't kiss them, because that's going to make them really dependent on you. And to be strong, firm adults, you're going to have to disconnect and treat them differently. We're all learning that the way that we're treating without the love and the compassion and the very enmeshment that children need and deserve as children, until they are capable to explore and push themselves further. But you're there to touch them. They're supposed to be that, and we want to look at it in a wrong way. But as we do it the right way that is in alignment with love, what I'm trying to say is they don't take on the lies that I'm not good enough and that I need to be something different than I am. And I have to contort my real emotions, my real thoughts and feelings in order to belong in this society. And I got to become something I'm not in order to belong to you. Because the belonging that we're told is we belong to each other. And without that belonging, first of all, as a child, you're going to die, because how am I going to eat if I don't have mom to feed me? How am I going to walk? You do die. So there's a very survival mechanism that's ingrained in being a baby, that you do need somebody. But on top of that is the understanding that we belong, and our right to be alive has nothing to do with anybody else. We belong to ourselves, and we belong to love. And that love is what brought us here. Even though in the physical core we have our mom, we have a soul, we have an experience, and that body wouldn't be alive if that soul wasn't there, and if you weren't the one having the experience. And even though your flesh and blood bodysuit is yours to experience, your soul is the one having the experience, and your soul deserves to be there, not because anybody else tells you you do, just because you're alive. And you're only alive. This was one of the biggest things that came to that, like, finally, that I transcended into, is if I'm alive, then I belong, because the source that holds me is allowing me to be alive. And that's all you ever need to know. If you're alive, the part of you that gave you life is holding you there, saying, have this experience. You have freedom. You have this experience, but come back to me whenever but I'm not going to force you. So if you are alive, you belong to be alive, and just being alive, however, whatever choices you're going to make, whatever, it doesn't matter, because you're alive. That's it. That's the only condition that needs to be met to prove to yourself that you deserve to be you, exactly as you are, because that is your God-given right, because that is why you're alive, is because love is holding you to experience the experience of the separateness for a time, for as long as you want, till you then go back to source and remember why you gave yourself that experience, and realize you were there's a part of you, source, that was holding you the whole time. Just go. It's like the umbilical cord that's holding you. You're alive because you're being fed, because there is only one source, and that source is loving you to life, loving you to life. All that's there, and it's an illusion to say anything else. And if we know that initial truth, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you, because you know you deserve to be alive, and that exactly as you are, you've been given freedom to explore. And that's the first thing that's taken from us. It then causes the disconnect from mother, the disconnect from love, and then we try to be everything for everybody else. So if you fix that, then boom, all your roots go back into what you actually are, receive all the information and love, and release anything you need to then grow and flush out everything else that goes from up.
Yeah, that feels, I feel things shifting just hearing the conversation about it. And I think you tapped into a really powerful concept here, that is, as a human body, this is like a physical experience that we're experiencing, like blood memory. Like, I was one. It's kind of like I was on the cruise ship. I had my meals at my beck and call. I had my warm bed, my heating pad, my ice pack, my excursions, all that. And then I got kicked overboard. And now I'm trying to make sense of it all. And at the same time, our soul came in kind of like from the opposite point of view, which was like this expansive explorer that's now confined itself into this small space so that it can, I don't know how to finish that, so that it can ... Well, let's put a little question from Angie up and see if this can kind of help you take us into that. What does the root mean for a soul's experience as contrasting to the body's experience? So Angie says, I find it kind of funny that as a soul, children come to teach the parents, but as humans, we rely on parents to teach or relearn the fundamentals to children. So how does that relate to this experience from us as these sovereign, infinite beings that are living as humans? How do we reconcile the soul with whatever it may be bringing in to that early experience we have as children as it relates to this conversation?
Yeah, well, first of all, just as humans, it's that contradiction. It's telling you something, right? Like, maybe as adults, what all we need to do is to allow ourselves to say, I don't know, and go back in and allow the children, see the children, allow them to explain, what do they think? What do they feel? Because they're closer to the veil. They're closer to the not forgetting, and they have an easier way to connect. So there is something really great about, like, oh, on this physical world, this is what I've learned, and this is how much it hurt me. And there's a lot of things that you can learn to connect with, the very 3D lessons learned. But as far as we really need to teach these children, like, I think that needs to be flipped. We need to protect these children. We need to allow them the space to teach us. We need to protect them from the physical, make sure they're fed. They're like all these things so that they can grow into the most magnificent version of ourselves that ever existed, because we were the guardians to allow them to grow exactly as they needed to be. We took out the weeds, we protected the space, and we offered them the food, the water. But as far as trying to contort them into a certain kind of person, that's the problem. The solution is to stop and to listen and say, what do you want to be? What do you feel like? And to protect their individual expression, their right to exist, to explore the world as they think it, as they feel it, and as they say it into existence. That's what we're supposed to do. But that's not how we were raised. That's not our experience. But that's New Earth. It is finally us as the older ones having more capacity in the physical realm, that we use that power to protect the young, to protect them and their rights. And as they're, fighting amongst each other, like, oh, I don't know, how do we balance me and you? Like, yeah, well, we've learned some lessons about that. But as far as their identity, what they want, what they feel, what they're capable of, and the secrets of life, they have that more easily accessible than almost every adult. So why are we trying to tell them how to be a good person and how to be a good human, when all we should be doing is saying, what is it like to be you? What do you want to do? How can I protect and offer that to you? You want to explore that? I can give you some good advice about when I tried that, what happened, but it's your choice. You learn it for yourself, and I'll hold the space to be the container so that you do it safely as much as possible. That is a different way of living and growing up that I would love to be a part of.
Yeah. And is that same fundamental truth that you belong to love and you are free to express yourself as you are, is that truth the same, like, root fuel for your body and your soul? Does that fundamentally help you feel home in both places, your body, your spirit, whatever feelings that you're...
How does that help you feel physically, to know that? How does your body feel when you tell your body you belong, you're safe, love is holding you? Like, how does your body respond? For
With
me,
questions. Mine
right.
was like, yeah. What is it for you?
For me, it's just a settling. It's like a reorganizing and peace, and going back to feeling safe, and everything just kind of like reconnecting and then going back in. But the questions, there's probably the blocks that don't let you tap into that. So those questions are very important. So what's the first question that comes up?
How?
How what?
It's like, but what if I fail? But what if I'm alone? But what if there's not enough?
What if you fail? Do you still belong?
It's definitely confusing.
If you fail, what does that prove about you?
I think these are just the blocks that are in there that still, they resist truth because they've just done it for so long.
Right. So those blocks are the questions that were meant to be vulnerably spoken, so that the answer, which when you hear the answer, it releases the question and it reunites you. The question is I don't know if I could trust love. But what does love mean to me? And how do I know that I'm worthy of it? It's that resistance. So those questions become very important. If you ask the questions and you ask the frequency of love, what its response is, then it melds them back together, and it free flows until it gets back to balance. But the questions are the blocks, and the blocks are just, they need to be spoken.
Yeah. And do all those questions stem from the same source? Is there like a fundamental block from the feeling of belonging? Is there like a lie or a trick that tends to be more universal that all these other little questions and fears stem from?
Well, the first one is, I don't belong to myself. It's the first way to gain somebody else's power, is to clip them from their source and then allow them to slowly need you, and for you to then tell them what to do, and to begin telling them whatever tactics you can use in order to take their power away. They're like a 2-year-old. You can use techniques that will then make them want to get your and do good by you versus themselves, where they no longer stand in their sovereign power of being alive and being me and saying absolutely not. That's a very incredible thing that like these 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds are like, no, I want to do it myself. Like that is us. Like at our core, that's what we want. But us as parents are like, no, you're not good enough. I have to do it because you can't do it fast enough. You can't.
Right,
And you
right.
can do me. I'm better and I'll teach you how to do it. And that's us taking the power away, which is why there's such a big like movement these days to giving them like, okay, well, we could do this, like, because they're like, okay, I get to choose. That's my choice. That's my power, not all the things we could tell somebody in order to make them just listen to us and be afraid that we could be wrong and make a mistake. You're going to do it wrong. You're not fast enough. Like those kinds of things when they're trying to tie their shoe. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not fast enough. Versus, like, hey, you're doing so good, but if I help you right now, we can get out the door quicker and da-da-da-da. That's not an internal lie that we take in to mean something about ourselves.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I don't know if it was intentional, but when you said that's how we clip our children from the truth, is by telling them you don't belong to yourself. That is just what religion kind of feels like to me. And it feels heavy, but it's like, let's clip their umbilical cord as soon as they pop out. Let's clip their little penis if they've got a little something going on there. Let's clip a little vaccine into them. It's just like, it feels like that's sort of the tampering. It's like that whatever that is or thinks it is, let's kind of clip it and put it in a category so that it doesn't really know or remember, and let's teach it what it is so that we can kind of control it. Sadly, that's
conversation for another time, I think, but I know exactly what you're saying, and it is like if there is if we want to say that there is a dark force that does fear that it's not enough and then tries to gain all this power as much as it could through eons of time. Some people call it Satan, or you can call it whatever you want to, but there is a force that is lost and has fallen from the heavens, and it's meant to come back, but it's in a state of resistance, pride, and trying to prove itself right, even though it's an ego, So that part doesn't necessarily want us to be in power. Doesn't want our empowerment, especially children, adults. It doesn't matter. Like as soon as you can make them at a vulnerable place, not believe they're good enough, and the sooner you do that, the more easy it'll be to keep them under your spell. So there's very early things that I do believe that are done that are purposefully taking away their agency to say no. Like I don't think any little boy would say, yeah, please cut off a part of my manhood.
Right? Like, where did that come from? Where did that come from?
Why did my mom let me do this? Like that's how I felt. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's what we do. For my oldest, the moment it was done, I was like, what have I done? He's just screaming. I'm like, why is this okay? Like, I don't care. Like, this doesn't feel right. Like, it truly devastated me. I didn't realize it until the doctor was in the room and I started to feel like, wait, this doesn't feel right. And then it happened. And I'm like, this definitely doesn't feel right. And, I'm not saying that I don't want to go too far into that, but
no, I completely agree.
Parts of trauma that is inflicted on us, that the very intention is to become a part of a system of control. If your body doesn't belong to yourself, you need to be better than you are naturally in order to belong to the kingdom of God. And you got this and that and this and that. And that takes away our very fundamental nature to say, as I am, I belong, and I belong to love. I am good enough, and I'm alive, and I will always be loved because I'm alive. And if I'm not alive, I will be loved too, because then I will either go back or go here, go there, and I'll still be alive. So there is an endless supply of love for you to be exactly as you are. And the freedom to choose what that is yours. But the lie can tell us, no, be something you're not, and take away that fundamental, I am myself and I deserve to be alive because I am. And love holds me here, and love gave me life. That's the only reason I'm here. So no. And you take back that power finally, and you rest back into your soul, and your soul then tells you what you really want to do. And you're like, oh, I remember me now. And now I finally feel alive again because that part's online and I'm not being something for everybody else and just draining all that I am in order to try to fit into a box that everybody else had planned for me, but I never have been free the whole time. Finding the rhythm again, but it's real. And when we finally pull back our sovereignty to choose and then the will to explore how we truly want versus trying to make it to heaven or trying to be enough for everybody else, we start to see why we came here in the first place and what it is that makes us feel alive and connect back to love, because love is unfortunately distorted and in lack the moment we start to try to connect to everybody else instead of inward to us and speak our truth and know what we want and what we feel and find the courage to move on that.
Yeah. It feels like such a big reset. And in our relationship, it's been almost 5 years that we've known each other, 5 amazing years, but it's been a huge reset where all these patterns, we've very intentionally taken the time and space, even though it's been difficult, to reset all these things that were what made us up to that point. And creating the space for each other to do that is a pretty unique thing. That's not something that we've really seen that often. And that's one of the reasons we're here doing this, is because we'd like to see how that's going wherever else it's going. But it's such a powerful thing. And one of the friends we just made in North Carolina, I didn't read the full post, but had said something to the effect of like, the God that I was taught to believe in, God, this all powerful, all loving, all knowing thing, needed me to be something other than I was my whole life. And now as adults, we see that that's not God. There is no God that would ever, it's a conundrum in itself. It's a self-defeating thing. How could all love reject you? It doesn't.
Well, it is a God. It is a God because we are all God, but it's not the God that remembers. It's the God that's trying to find itself. And it's a force and a consciousness that literally is trying to discover what it is and has found a way to use us to try to find that. But we can be the very thing that awakes up that force to recognize there's something more because we found it in ourselves. That's what we're meant to do. We're meant to be the Christ consciousness that comes and appears and is in all of us and allows all the dark forces to be like, wait, you still love me? You still think I'm worthy, but you're willing to stand up. You're inviting me to that light. You're not rejecting me and saying I'm not enough and get the out of here. You're so bad. It's just love. And when you appear with Christ consciousness, like Christ did, he loved all. That's what we are meant to do when we rise ourselves to the occasion of meeting ourselves in that love. We then radiate it out for everybody else. And the consciousnesses that doesn't make sense to, just by being there and saying, I love you anyways. You're forgiven as soon as you want to be. Like, grace is here for you. You don't have to prove it. Come join our side. Like, that's the welcome. It's not there's eternal damnation for you. There's not this duality. Like, that's the message that shows up. And that's why eventually the light always wins, because the light remembers and the light offers love. And all the other things that's trying so hard to have power eventually is like, well, what's the point? That looks better. I see there, and we're the witness when we embody the Christ consciousness. We're the witness to show what it's like to be the dark and the light and still be one with ourselves and to love it all and to make mistakes and say, I'm forgiven and it's okay. All the messages that come with true acceptance of self is the messenger to then show everybody else. And I truly believe. Go ahead.
No, it's beautiful. And I appreciate what you're saying. And I think it's basically that God is evolving. Is that kind of what you mean? Because God,
we are all God. We are all aspects of God, experimenting in creation, experimenting in, if we forgot who we were and we were then at each other and like, what's going on? What kind of power plays would we do? And all that needs to happen in order for us to forget and remember and be in the process of unfolding that truth amongst each other, what would happen? And we've gone through all the realms and all the eons to explore what that would look like. And we've learned a lot of lessons. And now we're going through a new cycle and a new dimension and a new earth to explore. Now that we've learned those lessons, what's it like to find a safe place to live just with each other? So we're
Mhm.
kind of like separating from the pack for New Earth to say, come on, guys, when you're ready. Anybody that is not ready to hold that frequency yet, it's like, take your time.
Yeah.
They're gonna feel the difference, but be like, what's going on? But then they're gonna remember, because the
Mhm.
memory was ingrained inside the earth, inside them. Anybody that is still there will remember, and it'll be there for them to then be like, I want to go there, and they'll naturally go. So we all just kind of assimilate into a new belonging.
I love
That's what's
that.
been prepared for a very, very long time. And it's been told through so many different civilizations, this experience we're all going through, and what's that going to look like, right? And that's what New Earth is.
Like the
It's a place
collective evolution of all of us individually and together. Yeah, I love that.
going back. So Earth is choosing to go to that place. It's creating a place for itself that it says, I am here. And if you're not in that frequency, you're going to be left behind. But I'll keep a part of me there for you too. It's like a tree that's like, I'm going to branch, and you guys pick your side. And any of these cells over here that's living in this other Earth can go out and in. And eventually, once all the cells decide doesn't want to be there, that branch will die. And then everybody will be brought to this new branch of reality.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And we've got some very important comments that I'd love to get your take on. Angie, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind, since we're going to have to circle back to this in just a couple minutes. Could you reword your question with a little bit more of what the is that is? I know Alyssa was kind of mentioning something about things that call to us. Would you mind putting a little bit more of what topic brought this question to you, and then post it again so we don't lose what it was connected to? And then while we get ready for that, if not, we'll do our very best. No problem if we missed that. And I really appreciate what Eve had posted prior to that, which, as we were talking about these patterns and the sort of like, no, you can't, that can inadvertently or on purpose be sort of ingrained in children, can also happen to us as adults. And those thought patterns can get ingrained. And that's all about our root health, I guess we could say. So I'd love to get your take on her comment specifically, which was she heard that idea of no, can't, not good enough from her ex so much to the point that she forgot that luckily in her case, her parents had always taught her that you can. And that kind of impacted her to the point that she thought she wasn't good enough. So even as adults, these thoughts can kind of take over. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, there is probably a moment in your childhood that something there did happen. A moment, an experience where you thought you were good enough, and not intentionally, that was their message, not intentionally, but there was something that happened that made you feel not good enough. And a lot of times you go back, especially like with QHHT, to these older memories. It's like there's a moment you would have never thought. First of all, you didn't even think it happened. Second of all, like, the perception you had at that age is completely different than what you would look at it now, looking back at yourself 3 years old when this thing happened. It didn't even have to be your parent. It could have been a friend. It could have been an aunt. It could have been an uncle. But likely there was an initial break. I'm not saying, I don't know. I'm guessing. This is what I've experienced. So I could totally be wrong. You didn't experience any of those thoughts when you're little, and you just happen to find a partner and be attracted to them and experience it for the first time. But maybe you also experience something when you're young, and that is then being repeated to make sense of it when you have the ability to talk about it, to like be, how am I going to speak up to this other person about this? A lot of times it's a repeating cycle, and the moments that you don't even remember are creating the rest of your life, that you will then at a different season of life try to make sense of what happened to you from 0 to 7 years old. We just don't realize that these little moments mean so much, and they make us think certain things about ourselves and take on certain energies or lies about who we are, what we deserve, if we belong, that then we then ask the universe to bring it back to us in our partners and our friends and all these experiences, that we try to live out what we thought about ourselves that we forgot, and are now trying to make sense of it now. Because likely, if you didn't think about that, and there wasn't a moment when you were 7, you wouldn't be drawn to a person that would then make you believe that. It's a reason why you're bringing it in. And just my opinion, That's my experience, but that doesn't mean it's true. So definitely not saying that that's why, but that's what I would guess.
Yeah, that's what you feel at this stage of how those patterns repeat and why they
Right.
repeat. And I think Angie's question's right on the same vein, which she clarified, which I'll add in a minute. But she says, is that why we shouldn't take what calls to us lightly, and specifically when we react to the need to do things on our own?
When we react to the need to do things on our own, is that why we shouldn't take things so lightly?
Yeah, I think, and correct us if we're wrong, but what I'm reading it as, when something calls to you and say you like push it off or convince yourself it's not important, is that harming you? And what should you do to those things that may seem kind of maybe insignificant, but it's calling to you for whatever reason?
Got you. And
And
yes,
correct us if we're not getting that quite right, Angie. We definitely
we'll go with that thread, but if you want to say anything more, you can. But yes, so the moment that any kind of, if it's a call of what I want, what I think, what I feel, like that's always a very important thing to follow, because it's not somebody else saying this thing, or somebody could say something crappy and you kind of be like, that's not important, or like someone say something that's like, I don't know if I want to take that in. When it comes from an internal source of, I really want this, or this feels really wrong, or it's more from the consciousness of self, then you know that there's something in there that is important. Sometimes it's just important to understand why, because that why is either holding you back from something because it's scared, and by uncovering it, you'll feel free to then explore it. The new options flow in naturally. So yes, if it's an I am statement, it's a I feel, I want, I think this versus they, and I don't know how to make sense of it. It's always important because it says something about you, something you're holding in your psyche or in your body that needs to either be released or needs to be heard, so that you can explore, uncover your passions, uncover what it is that you're meant to do in life, because it's coming internally. Do you feel like that's what she's asking?
I think so. Yeah, and feel free to chime back in with a additional question if there's anything more we can add. But I have another question that's related to sort of like root boundaries, I guess you could say, in all this, because in the evolution of myself as a new Earth, I think I've felt that finding some kind of accountability and common ground for what I perceive as bad, harmful, evil, finding accountability and finding where that is common with me, controlling someone, talking down on someone, whatever it may be, seeing that there's some part of me that would do that if I was pushed the right way, and I see that and I still love myself. What is the boundary between seeing everything as you and from that aspect of things that may not look good or that you might want to judge as unacceptable? How important is it to like assimilate that versus just draw a boundary and say, no, that's not part of this?
So true boundary when done in love. Like there's other things when you don't want to deal with it that you can do. Just cut it off. Like that's our capacity, that's our power to say you're not me and you will not. And that's like a power thing that's important. Like we need to use that because sometimes we can't do the other power. But the other power is like, here's these you know, arrows coming at us, all these things, and you see it, and you basically turn it back into the flowers. And you're still looking at the person that's attacking you, and you're like, it's okay, calm down, you're good. But no, I don't allow that kind of energy here, but I see it. And the difference is basically the judgment, which is saying like, I feel this judgment towards them. But if you see them truly with love, they're in some way a 2-year-old that just doesn't understand. They're making these decisions because they're upset and they don't understand why they don't belong. They don't understand why they did all these lies that they've told themselves. And then they're trying to project it onto you in order to hopefully see what you would do. Because if they're doing it to you, someone did it to them. And you're giving them the option to do something different. The moment you step up and defend yourself, it's going to be like, what? But then it offers a new seed of conversation when it's done with love. It's like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's not fair, and I'm not going to allow you to treat me this way, so I'm going to distance myself. But it's done with pure love and distance, like a mom would say, hey, you're acting out, sorry I'm placing here, when you're done I'm going to want to talk about it. It's a very different way of doing that. So Yes, as soon as you're judging anyone, it's because you judge yourself. Because you would judge yourself if you're doing that. That means that you placed a judgment on yourself to not do that, versus understand why you would want to do that and make a different choice if there's something better. That's what the forgiveness and the love transcends the act of being so angry and rageful that it wants to hurt somebody else. We'll talk about it. Why do you want to? Oh, because I think that they don't care. Okay. But does that mean something about you? And you go back to understanding that it's all the idea that you're not enough, that you don't belong, and that you can't be yourself, that makes people want to act out and rage and control and or feel threatened and jealous because they're not enough. Instead of seeing, oh, that's me too. Ooh, that's so fun. How can I participate in that? That's so great. How can I do that too? I want to participate, because there is no division, because love connects all things. And when you truly tether back to love and understand that you are all of this, the way we do, even they say psychologically, a 2-year-old actually already is in the mindset that everything they see is themselves reflected out. They already know it. Like, it's been proven in science. That's the way they see it from the very early age. That's them too. And they're interacting with themselves in another reality and like trying to communicate, right? And then they're told that's not you and you have to, and all these things that eventually grow them different. What if we never did that? What if they continue to see all those parts as them and they're interacting with their world, but there's a difference, and to love them anyways. That doesn't mean to allow them to do bad things. It means to say, I love you, but no. I can understand why you'd want to do that, but I'm not okay with that. Placing boundaries, but without judgment about yourself or them. Why would they do that to me? Maybe it means something about me. Oh, it must be mean something about them. You're trying to place the blame because you're worried that somebody doesn't belong because something's wrong. Somebody's not good enough because one of us is doing something wrong, because I'm not allowed to make mistakes. That was what I was told. I'm not allowed. You're not allowed to make mistakes, or else you're not good enough, or else you're going to go to hell. Then suddenly who's going and who's not, and we're all in competition with each other.
Yeah.
That creates the whole illusion from the very early age.
Yeah. What role does play and pretend play in any of this? Like, you're talking about children who automatically see everything as them. The ping pong balls are people. The walls are uncles. What role does play and fun and pretend have to do in keeping a healthy, grounded relationship with yourself?
Well, our natural state is fun. Like, our natural state is to feel good, right? And having fun feels good. Like, there's so many different things that feels good as a human, that all those things are the reason why we're alive, to feel those things to its extent, in a way that feels good, but also learning how to feel good without taking from other people, right? And every lie that we're not good enough and all those things make us feel so much lack that we then are trying to take it from other people and prove that we're worthy to get it, and all the whole game that keeps all the power at play. But ultimately, if we are to go back to, like, of course, play is like the number one thing. You connect back to source, you connect back to your body, you connect back to all the parts of you that feel like I belong, because you belong to yourself again, because you're looking for things that feel good. You're not doing it for everybody else, you're doing it for you. And when you truly connect to love and you go and do what feels right for you, then you start to believe, well, okay, you get the consciousness, first of all, that love offers you, which is you deserve it. And if you deserve it, then you start marrying that out to other people. So do you, you deserve it. And if you don't think other people deserve it, it's because there's a part of you that still doesn't think those people deserve it, or you don't deserve it. But the more you fill your body up with I deserve and I offer that love to myself, the more you then offer that to other people. Not like I have to do it for you now. Sometimes there's just so much abundance that you offer, but then there's also just the message, you deserve it. That's way more important than doing it for them. They can do it for themselves. They just believe they deserved it. That's the problem. You're not 3 anymore. Sometimes there's an elderly and there's people that can't actually physically do things. And that's a little bit of different story. But to believe you deserve it gives you the capacity to heal yourself, the capacity to explore what you would want to do. And all the dis-ease and the disease that we have, and the weakness, and all those things are coming because we've cut ourselves off from source, the source that would make us feel abundant and alive and explore our reality in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
And it all has to do with I belong to me, myself, and myself belongs to love, and love belongs to everybody. And then suddenly you see yourself in everybody because I am love. I belong to love. And when you belong to love and you start tapping into love, you start to see that love flows through everything. And you see yourself in everything because love is the thread that connects all things, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a beautiful truth. And I've got to mention that a huge reason we do this is because it's fun. And I didn't think about that before I met Alyssa, but she's taught me the value of real, honest conversation and that it's fun and that it can be a learning experience and a growing experience. And the more you're willing to express those parts of you that for me, I thought I had to keep secret and meet for myself and not really ever publicly acknowledge, those are the most wounded parts of me that by sharing and by conversing with and being open, that opens up more doors for healing than anything else I could do. So this is fun for us. It really is. And we talk about it for a whole week afterwards and then gearing up for the next one. So I completely agree that that's such an important thing to remember. All those parts of us that go offline, a lot of them, it's pretty simple to bring them back on if we'll lean into what feels good and then keep all those other parts in mind, like you said. So as you do that, what do you start to find in yourself as you address those fundamental cracks in the foundation and start to feed and water them again? What do you start to find within yourself?
Love, as soon as you actually allow yourself to believe that just to be, you deserve to receive from source that loves you, you clear the blocks and you just receiving. As soon as you're receiving, and it has nothing to do with what you've done, but you are, because you just are, then suddenly the capacity for that bleeds into every single other place of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to fill the gaps, and it starts to allow you to ask the questions because there's enough coming in through your root that allows you to feel safe enough to grow a little bit more and start to tether into other parts of you that didn't feel like are worthy to be seen. So that's why the root is the most important. It's the cutting of the ribbon and the glass on the boat. It's that moment that we say, I deserve this. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to belong to myself. And that's more than I'll ever need because myself belongs to love.
Mm-hmm.
Love belongs to everything. So you finally believe that you don't have to do anything and you can receive all these things. And then you now can explore all the other chakras. So
yeah, I love that. I think it leads us right into a great place to sort of round out the conversation, which is that at the end of the day, all these things are beautiful and good, but we hurt. We hold pain. We carry it with us every day. It wants to be alchemized. It wants to be transformed, but it's not easy. And I think this question/comment from Eve really takes us to a powerful place of where we can go to end on that note of how difficult and hard it can be. And she specifically said how hard it is to see everyone with love when you yourself have been so hurt.
Yeah, the first thing is not to see anybody with love because that's not what you're capable of. It's to allow yourself to be seen by love. It's to allow your hurt to be seen, to offer it and speak from that place and call to love. Call to source, call to a mother that is there and believe that you can be heard. And when you do, those parts finally feel safe enough to release and scream and cry and speak. And then suddenly you feel heard and the answers come back in. You realize the block was in you because you didn't scream as the child saying, what the F is going on? Why has this happened? Why was I told this? Why? And you didn't ask externally. You didn't ask mom and dad the answers because that's what just compounded the issue because they told you something even more confusing. Instead of going inward and screaming and crying and listening for the answer in you, because you would have heard the answer if you had asked you. And that's why QHHT is my favorite thing, because they finally hear the answers that they would have heard as a 3-year-old little girl. They are finally hearing now at 38 years old. They finally hear that the answer of love exists for them and has always through all of time. But the other people that didn't know that they deserved it, that have been cut off from that, are telling them something that's not true, and they just keep chasing. And that's all I ever did, is chase just to be good enough, to be lovable, to be forever and ever, until I said, no, I would rather choose myself and just see me as you want to see me, because I am done. That I finally found love for myself again, which was such a huge awakening moment for me. But it was the beginning of a huge transformational journey that I just began on. And when you asked me that question last time, it was like, that's what started it. It was the courage to see myself and speak from that place that just said, no more. See me as I am. Whatever it is, as I am. I settled in as I am to be better than whatever you could make me be. To prove to you I'm better than me. You chose me that day, and that's what truly set me free to explore love inside of me. And on that note,
yeah. Be free in your sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And drink your sovereignty while you're at it.
Yes.
Drink that sovereignty. Well, we hope that you'll find that voice within yourself to allow yourself to be heard. And in today's world, it's not easy. We're told to be perfect, told to be beautiful, strong, powerful. It's okay to just be you, whatever that is. And a lot of times it does hurt. But the moment that hurt is seen, it feels loved. And that's how seeing works. And that's why with our little teacher, a little 3-year-old, that my favorite thing in the world is when he squeezes my cheeks, pulls my head in close, and says, I see you. Because he didn't learn it from me. He learned it from him. Mm-hmm. And we learned it from him. So yes, with that, any final message that you'd like to share? As I think you've far surpassed anything that I expected going into the conversation. But any final thought feel like you would like to burst forth, like a little seed taking root?
It really is the most powerful opener, because it's where your soul comes back to life. It truly is where you belong as you are, to explore this reality as you are, and that's a God-given right. And that's exactly why you're alive. When you pull that in, all the power flows right to you. And you are connected to source again, to understand what it is and why you're here. And whenever you feel like, what's the point? What's my purpose? I feel so depressed. It's because you're not connected to source. And all you gotta do is go right back to, I belong to me and I belong to love. And go back in the frequency of love, of belonging. And ask all the questions you need in that place. And if you need somebody to help you, like find somebody that's tuned into quantum healing or whatever modality they found, they have that connection to going into that state of love again, because that's where all the healing comes from. And then it can just burst forth in all the other places. But I'm excited for this journey, starting with the root. Next week, we get to talk about sacral, and that's very fun too. But this was a pretty big moment for me. We've done this first for ourselves and for our children, and now we're offering it to anybody else. And it just keeps growing, not only with us, but like the consciousness that I bring into that to understand it grows so much. And I love it.
Yes, I am very excited. This feels very important, and it feels timely. It feels like it just evolved, and the chakras wanted to be seen, and the trauma wanted to be released, and here we go. So we're excited for next week, as Alyssa mentioned. If you have any questions, comments that we didn't get to during today's episode, please send us a message, post a comment after the fact. We'll be happy to address it in any way we can. Click the button for updates if you'd like to join the movement, as we call it, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for joining.